Welcome to today's webinar, Strategies to Help You Sell More Romance Travel. I'm Steve Grosso, Senior Editor of Recommend magazine and moderator of this webinar, which has been made possible by Recommend as well as the St. Lucia Tourism Authority. This webinar is a complement to the Romance Travel Trends survey that was conducted on recommend.com. Visit recommend.com to see the results from that survey. During this conversation with our panelists, we'll speak about romance travel and offer tips on how you can sell to this vast market. And before we begin, a few housekeeping items. During the presentation, please feel free to enter your questions in the chat box. We'll gather them together and hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Don't worry if you miss something. This webinar is being recorded and you will all receive a link via email to access the recording at your leisure. Let's start this webinar by having the panelists introduce themselves. Our panelists are Shante Alsay and Kathleen Herman. If you would like to start, Shante.
Sure. So my name is Shante. I have been planning destination weddings for 10 years. This is my 10th year. Professionally, my husband and I are both CPAs here in Atlanta. I quit my job 3 years ago to plan destination weddings full time. And it has been an amazing journey. Primarily, most of our weddings are in either Cancun, Jamaica, or the Dominican Republic. And I'm just so excited to share some tips and tricks with you guys today.
And Kathleen?
Hi, I'm Kat Herman, and I have been doing travel full-time now for 3 years, as well as the destination wedding and romance travel. And I am based out of Arizona and looking forward to talking with you all today a little bit more about what I do in this industry.
Thank you. Let's jump right in with the questions then. To start, if you had to describe selling romance travel to a newbie travel advisor, how would you go about it? Kathleen, if you'd like to start.
To a newbie travel advisor, I would definitely say go from your own experience a bit on what you enjoy and what you see trending in the industry, but also look for what people are wanting. Keep up with social media, keep up with what's going on so that you can look at the destinations, know the destinations, and work on selling those destinations.
Shante?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that offering technology resources right now is a really big thing for my destination wedding groups, and it just makes things a lot easier when it comes to booking large amounts of guests at one time, and like having a booking engine, a website. We even offer a service where we send off invites on behalf of our brides and grooms. So just figuring out a way to tailor the service that you're providing, where your bride and groom can honestly just show up to their wedding and you and your team can handle the rest.
As senior travel advisors who are experts at selling romance travel, how have the suppliers upped their ante to better accommodate couples walking down the aisle and honeymooners? Shante, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So I think that suppliers are doing a great job with really bringing, like I mentioned about technology, they're bringing landing pages and group pages and offering flexible payment options. And they're figuring that if they have to make it affordable and they have to give incentives to brides and grooms. And so I have some brides and grooms that will plan their wedding with me and they'll walk away with free flights to their wedding, a free trip as far as their hotel being free, and also like some incentives as it relates to the wedding, like a free reception or a free cocktail hour. And so making things affordable and convenient for the guests and also providing incentives for the brides and grooms is been key lately.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, with the technology and the simplicity of it. I think it's a little overwhelming when a bride initially thinks of doing a destination wedding or the group travel like that. And the fact that the suppliers are working hand in hand with us, with the bride and groom, to simplify, to make the logistics part of it a lot easier, as well as more cost effective than getting married here a lot of times within the States. So once they get over that first step of a little bit of anxiety or nervousness about traveling or planning a destination wedding, then the suppliers and us as travel advisors make the rest of the process pretty simple.
And what would you say is the trickiest part of selling romance travel? And how have you successfully faced any challenges that you've had along the way? Kathleen?
Passports, does that count as part of it? That would be the big part of it, is making sure everybody's able to travel to the destinations, especially important parts of the wedding parties, but also just making sure that they know what to expect. A lot of times brides are like, yeah, it might be 3-4 rooms and we're just gonna have a small gathering, and 20 rooms later, the mailman's coming. So I definitely try to set the expectation that once you start talking about this, you might end up with a few more guests than you anticipated originally.
Shante?
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room, which is like the bridezillas. And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there that when you are planning someone's wedding, it is a very emotional event. It's extremely emotional event, and it's expensive. It's a very pricey, price ticket for couples. And so those two things alone can mean that you kind of have to set expectations and set the right boundaries, or you can totally have some nightmares on your hands. So knock on wood, right now, I'm not dealing with any brides or grooms that I'm like trying to push away. But in the past, I've had situations where brides would like text me at midnight and they think that like everything on fire, and it's not. And so setting those expectations and boundaries when you're dealing with such an emotional event, for me, is key.
Mm-hmm. And Shante, if a couple comes to you ready to book a destination wedding at a certain resort because they saw it on social media, but you don't think that it's a good fit for whatever reason it might be, how would you go about selling them on another location?
Oh, I like that question. So I tell my couples at the very beginning that if you tell me that you just want to take a vacation, then I have a long list of resorts that I would love to send, you and your boo to visit. But when it comes to a destination wedding, there's a much shorter list, because there's going to be more things that has to be in place and that the resort has to prepare for it to be a great fit. And so I'll listen to them tell me like, hey, I think that this place is great. And then I ask them their preferences. Like, what's important to you? Is it affordability? Do you care that your guests might have to take, 3 planes and a train to get to this place? Is it important to you that the resort is going to have the ability to accommodate the size crowd that you're looking for? Is the culinary experience important? The types of restaurants that are offered on site, the cost of those restaurants, if it's not an all-inclusive resort, but primarily we offer all-inclusive resorts, with my team. But yeah, there's lots of different moving pieces that we want to see be a great fit when it comes to recommending a destination wedding that doesn't necessarily matter on the other side of romance travel.
Mm-hmm. Kathleen?
Absolutely agree. Qualifying the resort for the couples, making sure that it's going to meet all the expectations on the checklist, because as we all are aware, what you see on social media might not always be reality. And especially if we've had negative feedback from some weddings or from guests, from things like that, we want to make sure that their experience and their day is exactly what they're hoping for and is memorable and is everything they wanted. And so I think once they come with a resort, if it's one that it's not preferred or not logistically appealing to them, I do try to offer some more options or gently guide them to another experience.
Mm-hmm. Shante, you had an interesting comment about selling destination weddings that I think many travel advisors face. Having your clients understand the difference between booking a destination wedding and planning a destination wedding. Could you elaborate, please?
So I'm very clear with my clients that there's a major difference between planning the logistics and the travel piece for a destination wedding and then planning the actual wedding itself. And I'm clear that I'm not the wedding planner. I'm not the person that you want to talk to about your color scheme. I'm not the person that you want to talk to about your floral and your decor and your DJ and your dance floor and your hair and your makeup and your first look. Those are not my areas of expertise. I am purely travel and logistics. I'm going to get your guests there and to their destination at a great rate. I'm going to get you some really nice cashback rebates. I'm going to make it seem that you won't even lift a finger as far as the planning of the travel and logistics, but I'm going to introduce you to an amazing an amazing wedding planner that will have the time and the energy and the expertise to plan the actual event itself and to physically be there. So our team, we do offer 2 packages, one being just travel and logistics and the other being wedding planning plus travel and logistics. So that way we create a clear distinction between what we do and what we don't do as far as the different roles in planning.
And Kathleen, do you have anything to add to that question?
I think you pretty much nailed all the points of that. Absolutely. And that's what's nice about working with particular resorts where their wedding planning team is your right-hand man and they have all that covered and they're not even going to ask you questions or need you for that. So handling the logistics takes a lot of the stress off of the destination wedding for the bride and allows her to enjoy that planning part separate from what we offer.
Okay. I'd just like to encourage the attendees to please post any questions that you may have in the chat box, and we'll get to those in the Q&A session after the main section of the webinar. Next question: what trends are you both seeing in the destination wedding space? If you'd like to start, Kathleen.
What trends I'm seeing? I think the bigger groups is what I'm seeing a lot of, and the wanting to do something more exotic than they would have thought of in the past. I do a lot of more of the Caribbean islands. Jamaica is a big one that I have coming up too. Just having the whole group there, having all the pictures, having it all Instagram ready or for social media, having all that has been a big part of the wedding experience. And I think what they're really enjoying, what the clients are really enjoying, is the time in destination with their group, rather than a stateside wedding where it's just a day or, the day of, maybe the night before. This is a whole week to go celebrate a wedding and be together with the friends and family that care about you.
Yeah. Just posting that picture of your friends with their passports and boarding flights, like that's the trend lately, is traveling with friends and, posting their oceanfront views and their swim ups, and more people are starting to, upgrade their rooms. So not just, travel just to get there, but seeing what other options that the resort has in terms of rooms so that they can, post those cute pictures on Instagram. I think first looks are becoming a big trend lately. Some brides are doing first looks with their dads or with the groom, or, we're seeing bounce houses, live bands, fireworks, grown people as flower girls and ring bearers. So you don't have to have the little babies dropping the flowers anymore. And, I think bridal parties are doing more dances, like choreographed dances lately at receptions. Lots of trends are popping up lately.
Can you both tell us about your experiences of planning your own destination weddings, Shantae?
Sure. I think that I owe an apology to all of my brides that I helped before my own destination wedding, because my level of expertise when I became the bride and the travel agent really just went through the roof after my own wedding. My wedding was the best weekend of my life. It was, we had 107 guests in attendance. We got engaged and married all in the same year. I sent out my invitations a week after I got engaged. I had a little wedding in a box where I just, he popped the question and invites went out. So I love talking about those sorts of experiences with my couples, because it lets them know that, you can have a long engagement or you can have a short engagement. Either way, we can make it happen and ensure that we make it affordable and a fun time for all of the guests that are coming.
And Kathleen?
Well, I do like destination weddings so much, I did it twice. So my first wedding was actually up in Alaska. There was about 60 people at that one, 75 at that one, in a remote area of Alaska. So I learned a lot about logistics and what that looks like for the travel and for planning everything far away from where I lived at the time. And then the second one was on a cruise ship, which was an entirely different experience. And I like that for the fact that many people were able to come to the wedding who weren't able to sail with us. And then we did still have quite a large group of folks on the ship with us. And that experience firsthand, again, with the logistics and learning things and finding out what it takes as the bride side, I'm able to alleviate some of that for brides that use me as their travel advisor for helping again with the logistics and helping to get guests there. So my experiences definitely have helped me to be in the shoes of the bride as I'm working with them on their destination weddings.
Would you say that wedding parties are becoming smaller? For example, we've been hearing a lot about micro destination weddings, or was that just a pandemic phenomenon? Kathleen?
I believe for what I've seen, that was mostly a pandemic phenomenon. I have seen a couple of elopements since then, but a lot of times, like I mentioned earlier, they think it's going to be a lot smaller wedding than it turns out to be, because people are looking for excuses to travel and places to go. So you mentioned, oh, by the way, I'm getting married in Jamaica, and your guest list grows pretty darn fast. And with the perks and the options that the resorts have, bringing extra guests doesn't usually cost a whole lot for the bride and groom. So it turns out to be a lot bigger party than anticipated for the weddings that I've been seeing lately.
Mm-hmm. Shante?
Yeah, the hardest part of my job right now is securing availability. Like, it's not finding brides and grooms and couples, it's finding the resort that can host the size crowd the date that this particular couple wants to tie the knot. And that's becoming really, really, really challenging, as availability at the resorts that we love the most are just I mean, we're into 2025 right now to secure availability at the resort where I got married. Like, they have nothing available in 2024 at all.
Kathleen, what trends are you seeing in the romance travel space, such as more requests for wellness activities, more exploring of the destination, more VIP add-ons, etc.?
Looking at anniversary trips, honeymoon trips, things along that line, what I'm seeing a lot more of is people don't just necessarily want to relax at a beach in a location. They want to maybe have a couple days to relax, but then they want to explore, they want to go further, they want to do more activities in the area. So they're choosing destinations that have a little bit of both, a little bit of the relax and chill vibe, but also a lot of the go see do activities that are close by to the resort. I'm seeing that a lot, especially in Greece and Europe and different areas, as well as, you know, like you said, the VIP things, adding the helicopter in St. Lucia, doing things along those lines. I've seen a lot of that happening more in the recent years.
Shante, which types of hotels do couples usually gravitate towards, or is that more dependent on cost?
Yeah, so I love that we're in two totally different, not that we're in two different spaces, but I love that perspective of places outside of my little box of all inclusive. But I tend to steer my couples towards the all inclusive destinations, where if they do want to leave the resort, then that's just like icing on the cake. But I like to recommend resorts that have everything on site, whether it's like certain excursions, snorkeling, a disco at night where they can like party and have fun, nice beach right there on site, several restaurants for them to eat, nice amenities. I call it sexy hotels, like the nice new ones that you do want to take a picture of and put the picture online. And of course, a resort that can accommodate group sizes.
Kathleen?
Yes, I agreed with that. The all-inclusives are definitely a big drive because you pay up front, you know what the cost is, and you're ready to go with your budget. You're there, you enjoy it. There's so much to do. But also with real foodies, with things like that, there are experiences that I find that clients are looking more towards. I want to eat at all the restaurants. I want to experience the local culture. So I'm seeing a little bit of both at this point.
And what destination would you say is emerging when it comes to romance travel, Kathleen?
Europe. Europe has been huge. The number of requests I've received lately for Croatia and Greece, Italy, a lot of those. I've been seeing a whole lot more of that. And it's nice with knowing the different areas and having visited some of the areas to be able to help people think outside the box. Sure, they want to do England and Italy and fly in between, but maybe we take a train and overnight in Switzerland for a night and see something different on the way. So I have been seeing a little bit more towards Europe than I have in the past.
I'm reaching out to Kathleen to plan my vow renewal, okay?
Here for ya.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm again in that all-inclusive space, my primary locations, Dominican Republic, Jamaica and Cancun, we used to see more of a mix of the three. And I would say in the past 2 years, 90% of my weddings have been in Cancun. I like to sometimes explain Cancun like a New York. When you go to New York, you fly into Queens and you're going to venture out to Manhattan and Brooklyn, Bronx, Long Island. Very similar to Cancun is what I tell people, is that we can go as far out as Tulum and Playa del Carmen and Riviera Maya, or we can stay pretty close to the airport in the Cancun Hotel Zone or Costa Mujeres, Playa Mujeres. But Cancun for us has been emerging like crazy lately.
Just another reminder, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. Somebody commented to say that the chat was closed, but it shouldn't be. It is. The chat is closed. So please put your questions in the Q&A box, which you should find there if you have any questions, and we'll get to those after the session. So moving on. Do you tend to recommend that couples celebrate their honeymoon in the same hotel or destination they celebrated their wedding? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Shante.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I normally recommend that they leave the resorts, but to save the money, I say, save money on the flights. No need to go home and then fly somewhere else, especially because, like I said in the beginning, there's a long list of places that I can send you on a vacation, but a short list of places that I can send you for a destination wedding with your group. And so we reach out that long list and let them have, 4 or 5 days with their group. And then if they have another 4 or 5 days to honeymoon within that same wedding trip, then I think it's a great idea to go somewhere else, especially because the wedding resort is more budget friendly because it's tailored for large masses of people. And the honeymoon resort, you can break the budget a little bit and have some different experiences mixed in there.
Kathleen?
So based on my personal experience, since the wedding was on the cruise ship and then everybody joined us for the week after, right, which was technically a honeymoon, I typically recommend that they just enjoy that wedding with all their guests and a year later plan the honeymoon. And that way they can do a totally different destination, look at something like Shantae's vow renewal in Europe, and that way you get repeat business as well. So you're not trying to jam it all into one. You continue your relationship with them as well as you give them even more options. So I typically try to separate them a little bit because I think the wedding and the all-inclusive and the being with everybody is just such a thing that it's hard to leave and be like, all right, now we're going to go be alone for a minute. So sometimes separating those is another idea for them.
That's funny because that's actually what I did for mine is we 6 months we honeymoon like
right? Because you're exhausted, you're doing all that. Go honeymoon once you've rested, recuperated a little bit, and you can actually enjoy it and spend the time together.
Not all bookings are made from the same mold. What are some of the more challenging romance travel bookings that you've had, and why were they so? And what did you do to appease the client? Kathleen, if you'd like to go first.
Well, I would say probably my couple that was looking to elope, and they were very excited about it. Unfortunately, with the requirements for the country they were headed to, it was going to take a whole lot of paperwork based on number of marriages and deceased spouses and things along those lines. So they ended up, I recommended to them just do the courthouse wedding here, make it legal, and then go to a beautiful destination wedding for all the pictures and for the experience of doing it there. So that one ended up working out all right. But there are some definite hurdles and roadblocks along the way when you're doing things in other countries. So it's helpful to set the expectations for the clients when there's complicated situations.
Shante?
Yeah, I think right now the challenging piece for us, like I was explaining, is securing availability. And if you can't get that primary list of those resorts that you like, then selling a secondary resort and selling it like it's a primary, like that for me is kind of challenging when it's not exactly my first choice, but it's all we got, so I got to sell it, and so getting to know more properties is what needs to happen. So that way we have more of I don't like sending someone for a wedding if I've never been to that destination. And so just expanding my list of places that I've visited so that I do have that secondary list that I love so much.
What are some of the more amazing romantic vacations that you've created for your clients, Kathleen?
I mean, there's been quite a few with Europe, but definitely one of my top ones was Club Med Maldives overwater bungalow for a client celebrating their honeymoon. I definitely need to site visit on that one because it looks amazing. And then the one I was mentioning too is also an anniversary trip that started in London, Paris, Switzerland, Italy, and just seeing all that. I just think that's a great way to celebrate each other, to take in new sites, get all the pictures that you need for the social media, as well as experience new things.
What destination, in your opinion, is a standout for romance travel? And we'd love to hear from both of you. Maybe it's a region of the world. Shante.
Yep. So, here I am in my little short lens of the Caribbean. For me, Cancun is a 2-hour flight, and for most major US airports, it's a nonstop flight. And I tell my clients when they're trying to decide on a destination for a wedding, I'm like, if I close my eyes and wake up anywhere in the Caribbean, I'm gonna have an amazing time because the sun's gonna be shining. I know I'm gonna eat some good food. I know I'm going to have a great time. The sand is still going to be there. So for me, anywhere in the Caribbean, I can just close my eyes and be anywhere and be just okay with it.
In terms of celebratory, oh, we didn't ask Kathleen for that, did we? Kathleen, if you'd like to answer that one.
It's okay. I understand. No, it's fine. I definitely agree with the Caribbean just because of the short flights, the amazing weather pretty much year round, and the hospitality of a lot of the locations there. I think it's a great place for romance travel for sure.
In terms of celebratory romantic getaways, such as vow renewals, baby moons, anniversaries, etc., are you seeing more of these, or is that still a small niche, Kathleen?
Definitely some more vow renewals. I'm seeing a lot more of those. Baby moons, I don't do as many of those, but definitely anniversary trips as well. It's becoming a bigger market. People are wanting to go to places and celebrate. I think once we, as a world, we're not able to travel, now everybody's ready to and wants to and go places and experience things.
Shante?
Yeah, I think birthdays are popping up lately. I've planned some birthday trips that are like bigger than some of my weddings. I'm like, wow, this person is really special. But and vow renewals as well, like Kathleen was saying, but we plan them the group trips very much with the same strategy in mind when you're traveling with that many people. But it's birthdays are just becoming like, I had a couple spend like a lot of money on a birthday trip. I mean, they had dancers with stilts at the birthday party. Like they had the fire water drummers at the birthday party. I mean, they're just doing some really big birthday celebrations in the Caribbean lately.
And what advice do you have for travel advisors when it comes to selling destination weddings? Shante, if you'd like it.
I just know your stuff, know your locations. And as Kathleen was saying, you have to qualify people and hear their preferences and see what's important to them and what can work for them. And having that knowledge of different places and being able to give them exactly what to expect. My thing is no surprises. I never want one of my couples to ever come back and say, hey, Shante, I really wish you would have told me XYZ. Like, I want to be fully transparent and lay it all on the line, and having that knowledge and expertise. And that's why travel agents need to travel. And so resorts should give us, as they do, discounts and rewards points and things like that, so that we can get out and see different places and add them to our list of research. We got to get out there and research. So that would be the first thing that I would say, is just having that knowledge and expertise, and then offering a product that makes things easy for couples, where they can have their big event and they can think to themselves like, wow, like that wasn't bad at all. Thank you. Thank you for making what could have been a long, drawn out, draining process be really, really easy, where we can just show up.
Kathleen?
I agree with that. Definitely experience the destination so that when you're talking about these products, you know exactly what you're talking about. You've been to that beach, you've seen it, you've talked to the people on property. And also that goes hand in hand with working with the wedding departments on the different resort properties. If you've met them in person, you have that connection. So if there's anything happening, you can reach out, you can support them, they can support you, and it makes it quite seamless for being able to make it easy on the wedding couples.
And we've got some questions that have come in the Q&A, and if any other members of the audience would like to add further questions, please feel free to do so, as we're moving into that section now. The first question is, how do you determine your fees, Kathleen?
I don't charge any additional fees. I work strictly on the commissions that are from the properties and the wedding packages that are booked.
Shante?
And, I operated just like Kathleen did for the first 7 years of my career. And then when I decided that I wanted to do this full time, I met with a consultant who said, you got to charge some upfront fees because the work that we do is all done leading up to the wedding. And I've had so many weddings where the couples just didn't work out, and my team was invested in, lots of work and, for a year or so sometimes. And when they cancel, you get absolutely nothing if you don't charge some fees up front. And so I have a flat fee that I charge to all of my couples, and I offer them the opportunity to get it back after they jump the broom. And so that's been a seller for me, is charging a flat fee up front and then offering it back after the wedding.
Another question, is there a list for wedding destination resorts in Europe? I guess that's a question for Kathleen, since you...
I do, for Europe, I apologize, I do primarily romance travel there. So that's anniversaries, honeymoons, things like that. I've priced a few destination weddings there, and I suggest just looking into the local travel advisors Facebook groups. Like Italy has a great one that can assist you with finding local people for the wedding planning in that country.
Mm-hmm. And there's another Europe question. When you plan European destination weddings, are there wedding planners in the destination like there are in resorts in the Caribbean?
Absolutely there. I mean, I've found them for Italy. I haven't looked through all the countries there, but I've definitely found them for Italy. But I have not, I've done primarily anniversary and honeymoon travel there. So for the destination weddings, I wouldn't have any referrals for that.
What else do we have?
Ooh, I like that next one. Shortest amount of time to... All right, Shanta, you go.
What is the shortest amount of time to plan a destination wedding or a vow renewal? And so I give couples this timeline. I start from the wedding, like here we are at the wedding. Now imagine your guests. Final balances on a contracted wedding group in my world is going to be due somewhere between 90 and 120 days before the wedding, depending upon the resort, how many rooms, all of that. So conservatively speaking, 4 months prior to the wedding is when we're collecting final balances. And so if the wedding is in December and 4 months prior to December is somewhere around August, I ask my couples, what type of guests do you have? Do you have the type of guests that can make those payments in such a short amount of time, or do you have guests that can just pay that full balance up front? Because if you want to get married next month, I can make it happen. It just all depends upon what type of guests you're inviting, and do they have the ability to make those payments right away. And so that's how I determine how far out we're going if the couple does not have an exact date in mind. I typically recommend giving guests, comfortably 6 months to make final, to be able to make flexible payment plans, because they also have to buy their flights and they have to, get passports if they don't already have passports. So there's things that need to happen. They need to take off work and get babysitters and all of that. So that's the approach that we typically take.
And to say I'll add on to that, if that's right, to say what's the shortest amount of time, that also depends on the country they're going to. If you're, especially for destination wedding, some require big lists of paperwork, certain amount of times prior to the wedding, having to be in country for 48 hours, 72 hours prior to the wedding. So there are requirements based on what country they're headed to. Vow renewal is a lot easier than that. I mean, you can do it a month from now if you really needed to or wanted to, or tack it on to a vacation you already have planned. We can make that happen. But if you're doing a legal wedding in a foreign country, that'll depend on the requirements of that country. And
can I hop back in one more time just to kind of add on to that? So in my 10 years, I've only done symbolic weddings. And so I try to steer my clients towards their wedding in Mexico or in Jamaica or wherever it's going to be as just being a celebration with guests, and that their marriage will actually take place wherever it is that they live. So that way they kind of get rid of all of the requirements of that particular destination. I also joke with my clients and I tell them, my husband and I had this amazing wedding in Mexico, and we got home and we looked at each other like, do you still want to get married? Because we did our legal marriage after the wedding instead of doing it before we went to Mexico.
That's so smart.
The story. So we did still get married after our wedding. But we wanted the climatic part of feeling like we were tying the knot and making it official there at the altar, even though technically it wasn't legally binding.
I've heard of couples doing it a lot of times before, but I really like your idea of doing it after, because you learn a lot about a person at a wedding with all the family and friends.
Now
Good,
that it's
good
done.
thinking.
Yeah, there's another question. I'm just trying to clarify how to put it to you, but it's about the communication between the wedding planner and your own role as travel agents. She says, I not only plan the travel in groups, but assist in the wedding planning as well. It's important that the communication with the wedding on-site planner and the couple's communication is clear and concise. It's normally frail and needs boosts clarification. And since I also receive commission on their wedding, I include hands-on following and keeping a connection with how things are going, including suggestions with the couple, which they've always appreciated. I've definitely smoothed out issues which would or could have happened. I would never hand it all over to the on-site wedding planner and not be connected. We believe that it's their wedding, their way. Would either of you like to respond?
Yeah, so that probably is directed towards me, because I was very clear in saying that I'm not a wedding planner. And we do offer a full service wedding planning package, and we do make the introduction from our couple to the on-site wedding coordinator. Communication with all of the destinations sometimes can be a challenge. I completely agree with that. As it relates to reserving the wedding date, we do that part for our couples. We absolutely check upon availability, get the date reserved, get their venues reserved, and we help them decide which package they want to go with. But when it comes to the detailed planning, I tell my couples, again, I'm not the girl you want to talk to about flowers, color scheme, and decor. That's going to be the wedding, the on-site wedding coordinator or the independent wedding planner that I work directly with. If there's ever any issues that come up between, communication between my client and the on-site coordinator, we can absolutely hop in. I have no problem with that. But as far as setting the initial standard of who controls what part and what pieces, I'm pretty clear that I'm not a wedding planner, because some couples can take that. If you don't say that, some couples will start giving you calls and they'll start asking you, what are the prices to do this or that, or what if they want to modify this or that, and then you become the middleman between the couple and the wedding planner on site. And so, right now I'm in the midst of planning 41 weddings at one time, and so I have to be very, very, very clear with what my role is and what the on-site coordinator's role is. And if they do go with my full service wedding planning package and they use my independent wedding planning team, what their role is as well. Kathleen, did you want to add on to that?
I will. Yeah, Pamela, that's a great way to do it. And I imagine that your wedding couples also appreciate that, because that is very involved. But like you're seeing with the two of us, I don't charge fees. Shantae does. You do all the things. There's so many ways to do this. And that's what I love about this industry. Brides who are looking for somebody who will help them with every piece of it can find that. They can do the logistics down to what color the bridesmaids' dresses wear with the same person, which is a great service to offer. I really like that idea. For me, it's not what works, because I like to do the travel, the logistics, and the things like that, and work with teams that I know in destination are amazing at doing the rest. I don't know what flowers are available in January in Jamaica, but the people there do. So I don't want to be trying to give recommendations on that and figure it all out. It's not my wheelhouse. It's not something that I work with, but making sure that their guests all have received their passports, have their plane tickets, know the transfers, that I'm here for. That I really enjoy doing. And that's what I provide as a service, so that the brides can enjoy doing that with what I consider the local professionals that can do that for the destination wedding. So that's just what's worked for me, I guess, is what I would say.
I got another question. If anybody has any further questions,
There's
Kathleen?
Can I address one? Pamela, I saw that you had mentioned the port of call wedding for Barbados, and I love that idea. One of the things that I know I had experienced as a bride doing my destination wedding on a cruise ship was, as beautiful that is and great the services is, I've also been on a ship where they cancel the port of call, and I would hate that for one of the brides. I know it's been successful for so many, and it's a great opportunity for Barbados to have somebody come for the day, get married, and enjoy the rest of the celebration on the ship and everything like that. I personally am hesitant to do it for myself because I don't plan to get married a third time, but also to recommend for brides, just in the case of a cancellation of a port of call, because with weather, with the ship, with medical emergencies, with things that we've seen with ships, that can be a treacherous area too. But I know it's been successful for many, and I love the pictures of it. But for doing destination weddings, that's something I would personally steer couples away from. Especially if they have other family flying into that destination for the wedding, for having the bride and groom not be able to come ashore. The captain of the ship won't make a decision on porting based on that, unfortunately.
So I think the last question, and unless anybody has any further questions that they'd like to ask, do you know if there's some basic how-to information for planning destination weddings? Do you know of a website or a document?
So Will Medina's Destination Wedding Playbook, and rest his soul. I mean, I'm still heartbroken that he's no longer with us, but he literally changed my entire model. I will give him credit for all of my days, and I'm so happy that I was able to meet him in person, but it's called the Destination Wedding Playbook. I hope I'm saying that right. And if you look up Will Medina, it might be like www.willmedina.com. You can pay a one-time fee and download his playbook, and it takes you through various aspects of marketing and, you know, CRM tools and just different ways to sell destination weddings and to manage destination weddings. I personally didn't do the playbook. I had the ability to pay him for an intensive one-on-one where we just did an 8-hour consulting session where he just like dove into my business and saw how I was doing things and helped me to transform them. And now I'm offering that for other people, and as we're starting to help other agents that want to get into the destination wedding space and helping them to get into that space. So, but definitely check out Will Medina's playbook. Kathleen, have you also done Will Medina's playbook?
I have not yet. I've looked into it, but I haven't yet. But I've heard of it. I'm very familiar. I've followed a lot of the.
It changed my entire life. It literally changed my entire life.
That's awesome that you're doing that for agents as well now.
Yeah, I mean, you probably get the question often, like, how did you become a travel agent? How did you do this? Or how do I do that? And then, so we've just expanded a lot lately. And now I have the ability to teach. And that's something that has always been on my heart. So I'm happy about that.
What I love about this industry is people just helping each other and trying to boost other advisors. And it's a great community.
Yep. And there was, you know, on Will Medina's very last call, which was Valentine's Day of this year, someone asked a question, something to the effect of like, why are you helping travel agents to, you know, when you are an individual producer? And he was like, well, let's think about the Hard Rock in Punta Cana, right? Like that Hard Rock does probably 800 weddings a year, right? Like we're doing 50 a year. Like there is so many, like there's so much to go around where we can all eat a big piece of this cake that's out here and we can all win. And helping each other is like, why not help each other when everyone can win? And we can all, you know, sell amazing destination weddings. And that just touched my heart.
Absolutely.
So I think the last question, unless we do have a little bit more time, if anybody else would like to ask further questions to the Q&A, but the last question, what do you do to market yourself to find new brides and grooms? Kathleen, if you'd like to go first.
I have my vehicle wrapped by sandals, and I do start a lot of conversations with that. It's a GMC Yukon, so it's very noticeable, and that's brought me quite a bit of business.
I've never seen a Yukon wrapped. I love it.
I'll send you a picture. It's my happy place. I'm here in Tucson, Arizona, where it's 105 degrees, and I just look at the beach every time I walk to my vehicle. It brings me great joy. But that's helped me actually get a lot of destination weddings, not just for that brand per se, don't tell them that, but also for just travel and the destination part of things.
Yeah, I created a destination wedding podcast And so I started with like taking the approach to educate brides and grooms. And I realized that whenever I have consultation calls, that I'm like repeating myself and like sounding like a broken record, like over and over again. And when you have a consultation call and it's just 45 minutes and there's things that you can talk about for 3 hours long. So I let my brides and grooms know, like, hey, listen to the podcast. There's 6 very short 15-minute episodes that takes you through each step of destination wedding planning. And then when we get on our consultation call, then we can talk about those things in detail. And so the marketing from the podcast, as far as being on like several different platforms, has brought me some new destination weddings. I also started a Facebook page for my favorite resort. And so, like I was saying, kind of know your stuff. If there's a particular resort or a particular area that you are amazing in, like if you're amazing in Greece destination weddings, start a Facebook page and call it Greece Destination Weddings and just start posting content. And be rest assured that there's going to be some bride or some groom that's going to be searching Facebook for Greece destination weddings, and your page is going to come up and they're going to think of you as the expert. And then when they get to that page, they're going to see your website and whatever else, you know, that you're offering, and they're going to want to plan their wedding with you. So I think that my Facebook page has also brought about lots of brides and grooms. And then the more weddings that you do, comes more weddings. It's like the more you do, the more you're going to attract the guests of current weddings. So if you're providing a great product and a great service, and you're treating every guest of a destination wedding just as you would the bride and groom, those people are going to think about you and they're going to say, hey, can you plan this birthday for me? Or, oh my God, I have a vow renewal coming up. Or I know someone that's getting married. Let me tell them to call you because you did such a great job with this other wedding. So that's kind of my approach to getting repeat business from existing clients as well.
Okay, so I think that's about all we have time for. Thank you all for attending the webinar, and thank you, Shantae and Kathleen, for providing your expertise on romance travel.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a wonderful event.
Yes, this was so much fun. And I wish that this was something I could have listened to in my start of planning weddings.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.